2024. Hooray! I promise I'm going to get this channel back on track one of these days. 2024 was not the year for that, though it was definitely another year, italicized and bolded. Honestly, the past year has just been a whole bunch of shakeups that have kind of changed how the year was supposed to go for me. I landed on my feet, and here I am, still pressing onwards, doing my best to have a good time. Low point of the year? Well, turns out moving is no picnic. High point? Being done with moving and settling into a new place. Resolution for the year? Well, more than 2 main channel videos is probably a good start. I am working on stuff, and I know I gave the same plea for clemency last year, but I can say I am pausing in production projects to do this right now, further discuss the limited life space that media seems to have these days, which sounds more defeatist than I want it to be, though it is kind of true. I find myself looking forward to this kind of year-end retrospective, reflecting on the outside forces that stimulated thought and consideration for me. It's what I do best. What follows here are 10 various media things from 2024 that I enjoyed the experience of most. And shout out to my long-suffering patrons who have stuck with me through all of this downtime. You're all the best. And you know what? Yeah, patron roll at the top of the video this time, because honestly, I wouldn't have the fortitude I do for this without these folks. And if you would like to join these lovely saints who see me through the dark times, then please go have a look at the Patreon. For as little as $3 Canadian a month, you can get 1 week of ad-free early access to new main channel videos before they go live here on YouTube, as well as access to bonus vlogs and videos that go up as regularly as I can manage. Just like last year, there is an expansion pack video to this one hosted on my Patreon. Don't worry, it's free for anyone who wants to go give it a look. It's all about even more stuff that I thought was cool from the year. We're talking movies, we're talking music. I might even throw in my favorite sandwich again like last year. It's a whole bunch more stuff that you love to see lists of, and did I mention that it's free? Yeah, even for you watching this right now. But before you head over there, we should probably get to this here list of things and stuff, right? Which might be a bit heftier than usual because UFO 50 is totally a thing that came out this year, and boy is it a lot of a thing. Yes, I very seriously considered calling this video my 59 favorite media things from 2024, because that would have been a great bit, right? That I'm sure no one else is doing, but that would require me to think that everything in this collection is worth putting in a top 59, and that would be a stretch, at least at this point. I love UFO 50 from concept to execution. I think it's a great artifact to have in this day and age, and a lot of it is really good. Some I'm not huge on, and some of it I find borderline unplayable. If this worked for you, then great. And yeah, UFO 50 is here at the beginning of the video, effectively the bottom of the list, because there's a lot here that kind of passed me by without too much incident. The 10 or so games in here that have grabbed hold of me certainly aren't nothing, and one might call that a pretty low hit rate, but it makes the main list purely because of the sheer potential on offer here. I missed the NES generation almost entirely, and a lot of the visual and mechanical conventions of the time are lost to me. And heck if I'm going to be able to afford an NES Mini anytime soon. Playing UFO 50 felt like something preserved for me to experience long after its time, while embracing a modern sensibility surrounding an exercise in limitation from its look to its execution, which might even be the better option for someone in my position. Working my way through these games and deciphering what is retro revivalism versus modern revisions on old formulas made for a fantastic additional layer of engagement, and it only got better when I took to the proverbial playground, as it were, and swapped secrets and hints with friends. I can't say that every game in this mix won me over, but I can be reassured that there is a yet on the end of that sentence. There is a persistent intrigue with UFO 50 that keeps it alive in my mind at all times, never fully losing sight of the fact that there is a way into all of these games, and I just have to find it. So, Barbuda, Party House, Mortal, Rock On Island, A Tactics, Pilot Quest. I'm sure there's more I'm forgetting about, but my hat's off to all of you. worth the price of admission alone, and there are so many yet that I'm anxious to get to know better. Glad to have this one in my life. So if 50 full and complete games in one package isn't remarkable enough, how about one that is unfinished and arguably unplayable, like by design? 'Cause Basilisk 2000 makes a pretty good case for being one of the most fascinating things I came across this year. What if you were presented with not a new game to play, but a collection of project files that maybe could be arranged in such a way that you could get the impression of a game? That's what this thing purports to be, a chance to see something that could have been. In Basilisk 2000, you are given the opportunity to view a would-be game through a level editor, and nothing more. Nothing is connected, and there is barely any cohesion. What you are seeing is something forever in progress, with greater demands on the audience to properly observe it. Scouring the levels for any details already in place is the only way to acquire the clues you need to determine how to load the various levels that you will visit individually from a command prompt. This is a game that demands you remove yourself from the fiction of the game, unsuspend your disbelief, and view this thing against every instinct you possess, and then buy into the metafiction of why it exists. Or doesn't exist in the first place. This thing's got layers and stirs up a veritable tornado of thoughts and curiosities that I can never really be sure I've fully satisfied. After the hours I have spent wandering this loose configuration of elements, I can't help but shake the feeling that I could have been more thorough, that there are details I missed and more places to go with this. The magic circle of this game is just bizarre. I'm hard-pressed to say that playing this game is fun, but I can't stop thinking about how it turned my perception of my favorite hobby on its head, rebuilding the act of play into something foreign and strange, but no less engaging. Basilisk 2000 is the kind of experience that will make you believe a game can be anything, and I love knowing that this is the kind of opportunity a work of art can take. Music was just unreasonable this year. It seemed like every month brought several new efforts by longtime favorite groups, long anticipated returns, and some offerings that were surprises even within their own contexts. It's kind of hard to think of anything I'm desperate to shout about from the rooftops specifically though. There wasn't really a no spoon to show up and show me what's what this year. So I figured I would give in to the temptation and talk about Falling by A.C.T. A.C.T is a Swedish progressive rock band that borrows heavily from the genres of heavy metal, musical theater, vaudeville accompaniments, and reggae. And despite all of this, they are one of my absolute favorite bands. All of their offerings to date have at one time or another topped my list of most listened to discs, and that doesn't seem like it's going to be changing anytime soon. With the release of their latest EP, Falling, these wonderful weirdos continue their hot streak and soar right back into my favorites list for 2024. But some of you fact-checking types are probably calling me out right now because Falling actually came out in 2023, but many of you are probably aware that I like to collect physical media. I know, I'm weird, but I can't help it. And it turns out that getting a hard copy of this album was not a smooth process, so it took until 2024 for me to finally hear it, and while I'm not ready to call it their best work, it was another reminder of just how glad I am these guys are still around doing what they do. A.C.T is a band that can get me laughing and cheering for joy at any moment. Their music is like a celebration of sound itself, and their output is always a joyful surprise. From happy and uplifting, endlessly singable tunes to dark and dramatic moments of tribulation, or soft, somber ballads, the drama they imbue into every piece of music they build absolutely sells any emotion they are trying to tackle. No matter what is happening in their music, they always leave me in a better mood than when I went in. It's the kind of songwriting that fully features every musician involved, taking full advantage of what they have to offer. Songs that explore ideas that take you on a journey start to finish, and yet somehow are usually just 5 minutes or less in length. A.C.T is definitely the kind of band that could have a way bigger fan base if they only got the right kind of exposure. I'm not saying that I am that exposure by any means, I'm just a fan who wants more people to hear about this band that makes me happy, and that I feel makes the world of music a little richer. But okay, I should probably actually give a nod to my favorite album of actual 2024. When I finished listening through everything I found my way to this year, what rose to the top was a little album called Life in the Wires by Frost. The asterisk is silent. And when I say little, that is effectively a joke. The thing is a double discer, and there are plenty of songs on here that have some real musical meat on their auditory bones. Frost is one of my go-to bands for that high-tech prog rock sound that's always energetic and will keep you guessing. They bring a ton of skill to the table, they are always messing around with their sound to try out new things, and they don't take themselves too seriously, so what more could you ask for? And while I've really liked every album they've created to date, Life in the Wires is the one that has really taken root in my imagination and grabbed hold of me. This album is quite the adventure, and every time I get to the end, I'm never far away from just starting it all over again. It feels like there's geography in this music, like it's worth exploring over and over again, getting to know its peaks and valleys, how the ballads contrast the hyperactivity and busier bops, or just what all is going on in the centerpieces like Evaporator or Moral and Consequence. This album doesn't change any rules or challenge any norms, it's just bafflingly good music served up exactly the way I like it. Taste may be subjective, but if I had to choose something from 2024 that I could see becoming a classic within my music rotation, I think Life in the Wires is a pretty good candidate. I love classic Resident Evil revival games. Signalis was a favorite from years back. I'm excited to play Hollow Body and Conscript when I get a chance, and I'm very much looking forward to Echoes of the Living this coming year. So naturally, Crow Country is exactly the kind of game that I would gravitate towards, and I'm happy to report it's everything I hoped for and more. It certainly doesn't look like one of the best survival horror games in a minute, but the cartoonish aesthetic of the game creates the perfect baseline to be betrayed every time something like this shows up, or something like this happens. There isn't a moment in this game that didn't have me wondering or questioning everything I was seeing. Why the heck is this happening? Who would build a theme park like this? Who are all of these people, and why do they continue to involve themselves in this place? I found this game distinctly compelling. And let me tell you, when it comes time to explain exactly what is going on in the story here, it's not just a cheap-out mystery box hand wave. Crow Country has ideas it wants to share and manages to put together an ultimate explanation that actually made me stop and go, huh. I'm still thinking about where this game took me months later. It's the kind of creativity I don't just enjoy, but admire. And this admiration is present throughout the whole game. Between the puzzles, the environment, and the barn burner story, Crow Country is such a wonderful mix of so many different things in a genre I love. It's a game I walked away from totally satisfied by, and I do not hesitate to suggest it. It's the perfect little curiosity to fill a weekend with that ends up feeling so much bigger than it is. So, Rise of the Golden Idol was something that came out kind of late this past year, and I put it off for a bit, thinking, yeah, I'm gonna like this. It's the sequel to a recent Pinnacle favorite. I talked about the first game in my 2022 year-end video, and a big part of me thought it would be appropriate to leave this as a favorite off the main list. Talking about the same formula in subsequent videos seemed like diminishing returns. How wrong I was. Congrats to Color Gray for completely schooling me on my expectations, because Rise of the Golden Idol totally exceeded them. Yes, it is essentially more of the same, who's complaining, and Rise ends up being so much more, finding new ways to apply the principles it is built around and expanding the mystery even beyond the scenarios themselves. There isn't a moment of this game where you aren't absorbing some kind of information that feels like it's going to be important later. That isn't always true, but just knowing how this game operates after a few scenes will leave you suspicious of and interested in everything. I was almost immediately revisiting old scenes with new perspectives and absorbing new information. It's kind of mind-blowing how intricately all of this is put together, both to pass you important information on the down low, but also to distract you in the most fascinating ways. I'm a fan of puzzle games. I mean, I think you know I'm a fan of puzzle games, but where Golden Idol really sings to me is how much these games are centered around people, understanding their motivations and drawing conclusions from a profile you build about them in your own mind that evolves as the story progresses. I can't say that about the kinds of thinky games I normally play on or around this channel. Rise of the Golden Idol has tricks on its mind, more so even than its predecessor. This game is a headbendy good time, and I'm so glad I found my way to it this year. This is about the point in the video when I would probably start in with a segment on wrestling, because that has been a huge point of interest for me over the last few years. And wrestling was great this year. Timeless Toni Storm continued to be one of the greatest stories and characters I've experienced to date. The rise of monster Hangman Adam Page ended in some truly terrifying excursions I won't soon forget, and Will Ospreay's arrival in AEW felt like the beacon of a new golden age was set alight, and where it culminated, well, I don't think that assessment was far off. I'm still all in on wrestling. I can't imagine losing interest anytime soon, but at this point it's so much a piece of the furniture that I don't think I have much to say on it this year. So instead, let me tell you what 2024 was like in Survivor. Yeah, I don't think I've ever mentioned it here on the channel before, but I am a huge fan of the show Survivor. Yes, that Survivor, the show that was in charge of television from the year 2000 to about 2002. I got back into Survivor just before the pandemic, and I am way in, let me tell ya. I love what the show has turned into over the years, and when I get the requisite weird looks from people when they find out I still watch the show, the looks you're probably giving me right now, I am always quick to point out it's a very different animal than back when it was appointment viewing for most of America. Everyone who's on the show these days has grown up with it. They know the game inside and out, and it always makes for interesting displays of gameplay on the parts of the players and game design on the part of production. The players are always aware of what is happening, adapting when they don't, and they are constantly playing each other, wheeling and dealing within the confines of the game, and making sure they have something to put on their resume by the end. And Season 47, which aired from September to December of this year, is the perfect representation of just that. It is some of the best the show has ever been. The players were dialed in on another level, the challenges were, as always, inventive and interesting to see play out, but it's the social aspects and strategizing of this season that made it what it was. There are multiple moments of the story and moves pulled off by the players that I'll be thinking about for years to come. And I'm trying really hard not to spoil what they are, because this is a really tense and engaging and fun season of TV to watch, and I don't want to ruin it for you. Just the number of coworkers who stopped me in the hallways at work to ask me if I saw the most recent episode and that I just had to follow up with them when I had is a pretty good indicator of how much excitement was packed into this season. This is corroborated by the sheer number of WTF glares and actual tears we see happening after a vote out. This cast was in it for real, and it shows. I love seeing the new era of Survivor flying as well and high as it is. I've been a fan of everything we've seen since the return after the pandemic, but it's now clear to me that seasons like 41 and 42 walked so that 47 could soar. It's one of the best seasons of the show overall, and I'm eagerly waiting to see where we go next. Especially considering that season 46, which also aired in 2024, is one of the messiest disaster seasons we've seen of the show in quite some time.
Mermaid, dragon.
That's right, this list entry is about both Survivor 47 and 46, just for how different they are and showing you how much potential is still hiding in this formula decades later. Between these two seasons, I think it becomes pretty apparent how much Survivor is just the glorious gift of the Chaos Gods that hopefully never stops giving. What I love most about Survivor is the way it coaxes people into exiting their real lives for a time so that they can tell us a story about themselves, all while having to dodge and weave around the machinations of other people and the harrowing designs of a game structure that challenges you just to survive. And 46 had just the kind of memorable moments that I can share, like Ben and Charlie's Taylor Swift versus Metallica song naming competition, the most hilariously awkward game of rock, paper, scissors you'll ever watch, and you will never think normally about the word several ever again. There is no part of me that blames people for breaking down into the truly strange behavior this show seems to bring out of them when pushed to their limit. Season 46 was basically a showcase of just that. But if I'm honest, no food and exhaustion conditions would probably cause me to break down over the chance to eat at Applebee's too. I will probably watch Survivor for the rest of its existence, but 2024 was the year that it was revitalized for me. I'm always looking forward to a new season, but admittedly, it is, once again, kind of a piece of the furniture most of the time. But this year was the year. Honestly, if you're at all Survivor curious, these are the seasons to scope out. They were such a good time and a huge part of the year for me. And by the by, my favorite wrestling pay-per-views for the year were AEW World's End and All Out, and my favorite matches were Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page in the Steel Cage, Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander for the TBS belt at World's End, and Konosuke Takeshita versus Darby Allin all the way back in January on a random Dynamite. Because, geez, I mean, look at this. Wrestling's the best. I'm always up for a good movie, and there were a lot of those this time around the sun. Admittedly, I didn't make it to the theater as much as I usually do, and so I spent a lot of time on streaming services and VOD. But when I think about all of the movies I did see and which ones have stayed with me the longest, a little curiosity called Riddle of Fire is always waiting there patiently for me to go, oh yeah, I liked that one. Riddle of Fire is not what you'd call a showpiece or spectacle. There are no special effects or sweeping drone shots to speak of. It is very much a director takes some actors out to the woods and shoots themselves a movie kind of movie. But it fascinates me time and time again with its willingness to pose the question, what makes a fantasy story? Is it the setting, the aesthetic, the structure? Do you need to have literal magic and grand wilderness adventures and dungeon crawls and dragons and mystical creatures? What if it's just 3 kids at the end of their summer vacation trying to make their sick mom a blueberry pie so she'll give them the password to the TV so they can play some dang video games already? Does that count? What starts as a series of quests around town, bothering the citizens and terrorizing local businesses, just like a real D&D party,
now haunt me no longer, sprites of the forest,
eventually turns into those daring dungeon crawls, wilderness adventures, and, oh, is that a witch using actual magic? And this girl calling herself a fire fairy seems to be more than she appears. Together they will brave the wilderness and battle the dark underworld of their town, all to steal a lucky speckled egg from a woodsy bastard so they can return home triumphant and answer the riddle of fire. More than anything, this is a movie that made me feel like a kid again, reminding me of a time when the world of magic was all around me, even in my own backyard, just waiting to be found. I have no idea if this will resonate with people the same way it did me, but this was a movie that I found shockingly immersive just for being all in camera and leaving the magic up to the experience. Riddle of Fire was a most unexpected adventure that I won't soon forget. I am somewhat back and forth on Animal Well. When I boil it right down, it was a game I played, and that was it. When I was done with it, I moved on, and that was all. I proceeded, eager to see what else the year had in store for me. What I didn't expect was how much I would find myself thinking about just this, or this. What surprised me most about Animal Well was how long it took after I was done with it to realize how much it absorbed me and how much of it I had absorbed. I suddenly remembered how naturally and easily I found myself drifting back to it time and time again to find out that the Animal Well is deep indeed. I think most people watching this will have their impression of the game already, and so I won't speak on it in too much detail. The game comes with the promise of discovery on the other side of wonder, and every revelation, every new detail scoured brings that promise to life. At a certain point, I became excited by the need to abandon this game. I don't want to demystify it too much. I got 2 endings, and based on what I'm reading, that's about as far as my feeble brain will be able to take me, and I think that's just fine. I may have simply played this game and moved on, but Animal Well will live in infamy for me. A bottomless source of mystery and wonder, a well that I can return to, pun intended, anytime I need to feel that promise of discovery take hold of me once more. Back in 2022, when I released a video in which I sheepishly admitted that I don't like Hollow Knight, I have to admit I was a little nervous that the Metroidvania or search action genre was not for me anymore. Part of me kind of avoided them after that, but I was so happy to be proved wrong this year. When I sprung for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, it wound up setting me straight so thoroughly that I'm actually kind of hoping Ubisoft survive whatever it is they're going through right now so that they can make another one of these. While the story and characters kind of flew right past me, the raw experience of this game is just next level. The kinds of things this game has you doing by even the halfway point make you feel like a superhero, bending the reality around you in such incredible ways that I am still thinking about this game nearly a year after playing it. I kind of regret not capturing this game my first time through it to show you how I overcame the trials that I faced. Instead, I am borrowing this footage from snomaN Gameplay. I'll have it back to you in one piece, Mr. Snow, I promise. But believe me, the satisfaction you get from finally besting the puzzles and challenges of this game is real. This is a game that makes the list purely because of the brute force behind it. Between the gameplay, the level design, and the aesthetic, I was totally captured by the experience. Every movie or TV show I watched, gaming hangout and voice chat I attended, my Switch was always in hand as I just wandered through its world, scratching at any corner of it, making sure I didn't miss any details. It was a great reminder of the raw sense of fun games are capable of, which I think is indicative of this year for me in general. More than anything, 2024 was a year that reconnected me with games. Prince of Persia was a major force in this reinvigoration, but of all of the things I enjoyed this year, games were the hardest category to choose an absolute favorite from. I'm hard-pressed to think of something I played this year that I didn't like on some level, and I wouldn't put too much weight into the order in which I put things on a list. But even outside of rankings, for whatever they're worth, I think there's always going to be a favorite in a cluster of like things. What I can say for sure, though, is that I certainly wasn't expecting a game called Tactical Breach Wizards to be my favorite thing of the year, but here we are. On first glance, Tactical Breach Wizards looks like a fun round-based activity more than an experience with any kind of depth. By every metric, this looks like a classic tactics game wherein you are tasked with clearing out a series of rooms as optimally as possible, but that is selling TBW short. It is so much more than meets the eye. Each mission plays out over the course of minutes, maybe even hours, as you try to figure out how best to accomplish your task and watch a plan play out over just seconds. Because it's not a tactics game, not really. It's a puzzle game, but not the kind that I'm known for talking about. It's a situational, objective-based puzzler segmenting the tasks you perform into specified chapters or missions that are used to tell a deep and far-reaching story taking you all over the world, or this world, I guess. I became obsessed with the twists and turns provided by the absolutely wild abilities your team acquires over your adventure. I have spent a considerable amount of time trying to determine the best way to throw an adversary through a dark dimensional portal I just opened up behind them. There are so many cool ways to approach any situation, and the way the game takes advantage of this is nothing short of amazing. I've never seen a game escalate its mechanical approach alongside its narrative so appropriately and so well before. This slow, turn-based game had me gritting my teeth and tensing my shoulders by the final mission as though I was really there, and every decision counted. And the characters taking you through this story and these places are some of the most intriguing and charming avatars I think I've ever played as. Even months after finishing the game, I'm still thinking about Jen, Zan, Banks, Dahl, the guy whose name I'm always forgetting, but also he's kind of a spoiler, so maybe I'll just leave him be for now. All of them are wrought brilliantly out of the story and world around them. And I know people have written this game off as being a bit too Whedon-esque in its dialogue for their liking, but I am always a fan of things that can commit to their delivery this hard. And the writing style works really well here. Personally, I'd take any chance I can get to be sarcastic and sardonic and chronically detached from the messed up situations I find myself in. If I was one of 5 people begrudgingly handling a potential apocalypse on behalf of a world that's never gonna know I did anything, I'd probably have a bad attitude about it too. Before long, I didn't see much difference between the quips of these characters and the whip-quick banter of a 1950s film noir. It ends up becoming writing that I would call appropriately indulgent and amazingly illustrative. When I had finished my move and gotten my machine up and running again, one of the first games I started up was Tactical Breach Wizards. It became a marker of settling into my new home and was kind of a beacon of comfort for a while. On top of just being wildly inventive and really addicting, this game has become kind of a banner of 2024 for me. When I think of the last year, it's hard not to conjure up images of this game, and I wouldn't change that even if I could. It's a great time, and I'm happy to have it here on my list for the year. Thank you all for watching this video, and if this isn't the first of my videos you've watched, then thank you for continuing to watch my videos. I can't imagine my life without this channel in it at this point, and I'm just glad that anybody wants to watch, frankly. I'm now off to pick up where I left off on all of my various projects, and so to tide you over, don't forget to check out the Patreon for the free expansion pack video. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring for notifications of when new videos go up here on the channel. And it's a little late for Happy New Year at this point, so take care of yourselves, everybody.